Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining this webinar today. I'm going to turn this real quickly. I've got several people. We're just going to give it just another few seconds here. And I'm going to turn this over to Paul, who is our Director of Business Development and Strategy. He has been working on this new collaboration platform, and we've been working on it for quite some time now. It's really coming into play now. So this is going to give you some really good information about moving over to this new platform. We think it's something that it's going to work real well. Tell you what, Paul, let's give everybody just a couple of more seconds here because I still show some people coming in, and we had a really full house. So give everybody just a few more minutes, or just a few more seconds here. Okay, we've still got a few people coming in, but Paul, I know you got a packed agenda, so why don't you go ahead and get started?
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot, Dennis, and welcome to the TSANet Connect member migration webinar. So I'm going to spend just a few moments in case you're new to TSANet Connect, what it is and how it works, and then we'll quickly get into some of the items around member migration. So just quickly, what it is, it's really our next generation collaboration platform, and it's designed around this single use case of creating a collaboration case with other members. It's modern in that very integrated with escalation management and other things, so very kind of user friendly, and also very open to allow you to integrate into your systems and processes. So that's what TSANet Connect is. Just real quickly how it works. It's really centered on the concept of connecting a member's case/engineer with another member's case/engineer. And then in the end, after we manage that connection and acknowledgement, TSANet Connect steps out of the way so that the engineers can work the case. And this keeps us out of issues concerning data privacy and things like that. So just walking through the rest of the how it works here, we have just kind of walking through the process here. The sender logs into the site, they find the member's process document, they go ahead and fill out the form, and really at this point, the email process completes the connection. So we've got the receiver receiving an email, or sorry, the sender receiving an email, the receiver receiving an email. They respond within that email, completing their case number, the engineer contact information, which is sent over to the sender. And as indicated, this is where we kind of step out of the way. The engineers are staying in their CRM systems and working the case between themselves. So just a bit of other information. If you've missed previous webinars, we do have all of them recorded. So provide information, overview of TSANet Connect, kind of what I showed you now is a little bit more in-depth information. We do have administrator training and also a deep dive into how we manage partner groups within TSANet Connect. So if you missed any of those webinars, that gives you an opportunity to go in and take a look at those. So then moving forward into the TSANet Connect releases, probably the thing I would emphasize here is we do have the first release and it is feature complete. So all features and functionality are in place. And as we move into the May, June, and July timeframe, we're going to be spending time on integrations, and those will be based on member requirements. And I'll highlight a little bit on where we're at now because we've made some steps on the Salesforce side, but you can see some of the other systems that we know will be in focus. And then as we get into the fall, the focus will be on the enhancements based on member feedback. So again, a lot of this where we've come from and where we're at right now based on a lot of member feedback, and we'll kind of continue that moving forward as well. So then looking into the member migration timeline, we have phase 1 that's going to be going live here very shortly. You can see the members that are on that. We've got 8 of them: VMware, Red Hat, NetApp, Fujitsu, Citrix, NVIDIA, Actian, and Nutanix. So those 8 members will be going live. And then as we go into phase 2, this is really where we start to scale up the migration. So we plan to get around the 200 club for the phase 2 migration. priority being partners that are related to phase one members. So their partner program is going to come through. That is going to be, a lot of limited members. But then we also have several premium and basic members that will be part of that list. And I'll indicate here towards the end of the webinar how you can request to be in phase two if that's of interest to you. And we'll also be changing to have any new member that joins, specifically basic and premium members will be onboarded onto the new system. And then as we look at phase three, which is really the second half of the year, that's really, where we're going to be spending time to get all the remaining members migrated. So we do have a goal to have 100% of the members migrated by the end of the year. Okay, so taking a look at the member migration checklist, and I'll just kind of highlight here, the slide maybe looks busier than it really is, right? It's very similar to onboarding today. Obviously, there's a little bit more structure since it's a form-based, and I would say through the phase one migration, I think we've learned really what's the best practice way of setting this up. So this is usually accomplished. It can be accomplished in days or weeks based on how much internal change you might have to make. The first call we'll sit down and we'll really kind of define all your requirements, so your departments, your groups, what type of login page you want, and then spend time on your process form and your actual inbound process. At this point, we're ready to set you up and configure you. So we'll go ahead and have that and basically turn the system over to you. You have a login where we can do some testing with you, make sure you kind of have confidence in how it's going to work. And at that point, we put together the end user training, do whatever type of training with your managers that's necessary, and then we go live. And the go live is really pointing you at your new login page. So again, the go live isn't very cumbersome either. So that's the migration checklist, and I would say kind of the phase one members helped us refine this. I want to spend a little bit of time on the inbound process to show you that we've started to see some similarity here. I won't go through all these in detail. I'm just going to highlight that there's really kind of two models that we've seen people put in place. The first is, let's design it to get a case automatically into our system, right? Because that's really where all their process is, and they can trigger events and things like that based on cases that are arriving in their system. And all of the members that have chose to do that have done it the same way. They've used a email to case methodology. Salesforce has one. You can see ServiceNow is on here as well. So I'd say most systems have the ability to take an email and transact it into a case. So they set up a unique account for TSANet, and that allows them to set up entitlements and triggers and workflow, kind of really specific for that. So that's I would say about how half of them have set it up, and the other half have simply set up an alias that has a group of folks that are monitoring it, and whether that's your frontline group that's 7x24 that's following a very specific process, or it's an escalation list, right? Again, this is not a high volume process, so I think you got quite a bit of flexibility on how you want to set that up. But we've seen those as kind of the two common ways that the people are setting this up. And then spending a little bit of time on the Salesforce integration. This shows what we see the end result being for Salesforce. And again, as you saw on that previous slide, majority of the phase one members were Salesforce, and they all chose to use the email to case functionality. But you can see here we've kind of worked through in discussion that obviously the web to case methodology would work as well. So that's an option. And then the initial response could also be automated. No members chose to do that for the first phase, but Salesforce has a flows functionality that could be used to automate that initial response. And then for outgoing requests, again, no members decided to do that at this point, but I do see that coming later. And again, our viewpoint for that outbound integration, and again, is fairly lightweight. It's a button that would be placed on your case form or somewhere within Salesforce that essentially auto logs you into the TSANet Connect platform, maybe brings a modest amount of information over to it to make it easier for the engineers to make an outbound request. So that's where we're at with the Salesforce integration. And again, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves here. We'll continue to, as we onboard members that have Salesforce, ask them what level of integration they want to do. And again, you can see here it's leveraging native Salesforce functionality. That's how we plan to do all types of integration. So it's not the type of thing where your team has to look at a new piece of technology or new methods to integrate. They're just using the standard functionality that they're very comfortable with using. So it tends to make for a fast and easy conversation with your Salesforce admins and IT teams. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to a fairly fast demo, so we have enough time for some Q&As here. So really the two things that I wanted to show, I was going to give you a couple examples of members that are in phase one, so you just get a little bit of sense of what customizations we've done for their process forms. This may give you some ideas on your side. So the first one I'm going to take a look at is VMware. And you can see the interface here, very easy to use, dynamic search, just going to pull it right up. I could also pin that to my favorites, but essentially you'll see here it's auto populated my information here. I enter my case number, my common customer information, problem summary, and then VMware has added these two additional fields. It's product line. So I would select a product line, and these are actually dynamic drop downs. So based on my first selection here, it's going to then ask me to choose a product, right? So this is probably one of the more comprehensive integrations that we've done, where we've got a set of product lines and associated products, right? And that allows VMware to have a single inbound process that gives them this information that's necessary to do skills-based routing to the right teams, right? So in previous setup with VMware, they had I think somewhere between 12 and 15 inbound process setups, right? And that was because this team needed this team needed that, all these kind of unique setups. And again, this type of form-based approach allows us to do much more interesting things to get them the information that they need to route it to the right team. So that's one example. Another example, let's just take a look at Actian here. You can see here, they just have a single field. And again, it's a product line. So just a product line pull down, and really that's it. I would say for all of the phase one members, it's usually a single additional custom field or maybe two, right? The other common thing we tend to see is over on this common customer contact, specifically with hardware vendors. They may need, for example, a serial number to properly entitle the asset, and that brings on all the information that they need about that product. So they'll add a serial number field here as well. So you can certainly add custom fields both in the problem area as well as the common customer area. Okay, so that was the first thing I wanted to show you. The second thing I wanted to show you was the experience of working with a member that is not migrated yet, right? So again, you see the new process form for the members that have migrated. If a member hasn't migrated, you're still going to see them in the same way that you see them today in the member web. So we've migrated all these static documents. So your engineers, don't need to, the other member hasn't migrated, let me go back to this other site. It's all integrated into the new TSANet Connect. So there's simply, as far as your users go, they'll over time see more and more and more of these process forms. And you can see here, as far as the member migration, we intend that to be completed by the end of the year. So no issues as far as migrating your users. If some of your partners that you're working with aren't migrated yet, no problem. You'll still be able to work with them fine. Okay, so I'm going to switch back here to this slide, and we'll have time for some Q&A. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on looking at what we've learned through phase one. So I think the first first lesson learned is we find that most members have selected the email authentication link method. So again, without going into the details, you get an option for your login page. So you'll get a unique login page that's linked to your domain. So for example, vmware.connect.tsanet.org. And that can either be a page that your users are able to put their email work address and receive a temporary login link that will work, and they can turn it into a permanent account simply by setting the password. Or if you want to really control access, you could have a registration page that then sends workflow into a designated contact within your organization that approves access. So just really kind of depending on what level of control you want on user access. The other thing that we've seen, and again, good reference to VMware, a lot of folks have used this as a great opportunity to really simplify and standardize their inbound process, right? So if today your presence on the TSANet website is, wow, we've got a lot of process contact documents, we've got a lot of different relationships, it's very kind of complex setup, you can really simplify it with this new method you want on user access. Everybody's using the standard email process, like your presence on documents. We got a lot of different relationships. It's used for the Salesforce integration, specifically the web to case. But everybody kind of stuck with the standard email process. I think it's the easiest. It's the one that requires the least amount of conversation with your IT organization. Most people just have it set up by default. It's simply a configuration thing and really doesn't require any type of IT work to get that going. And then really with that, the standard setup as far as, hey, we're going to use the email to case, and to do that, we'll just set up a company account called TSANet, and we'll put the right entitlements and workflow associated with that. And that just really kind of makes it easy and keeps it all within your CRM system. So we've seen, like I said before, about half the members do that. The custom fields, as I highlighted, it's usually one or two, tends to be if it's product line. Again, we like a list of values there. It just gives you nice, clean data. And if you're asking for a field, it's probably because you're mapping it to some fields or information inside of your CRM system. So it's best to have a specific match there. And then I would say the second common one for hardware vendors is to get the serial number in there. The other thing that we've seen, and this makes again a fairly easy method to do some outbound process integration. That is, if your CRM system has the ability to associate an email with an existing case, that's as simple as adding that email to get that email back into your Salesforce system, part of the configuration. So we do put your case number in the subject of those two emails you get back, right? So you get two emails back. You get one as soon as you press the submit button, and then you get one as soon as you get all the information to collaborate with the member back in the initial response. So if you want to get those automatically associated with the case that the engineer is making the outbound request from, there's a very easy way to do that. And then the last thing that we learned, we started this out thinking that maybe one or two members would take us up on it, but I think it's now become really a standard thing that we do, and that is we create a very short co-branded training slides, and it turns into about a 5-minute recording, and this is by far the easiest way to train your users. Again, as you saw my quick little demo, this isn't a complicated system to use, so it's not necessary to have your engineers sit through a 30-minute plus conversation. 5 minutes is perfectly adequate to get them using the system. We do still end up with the opportunity to give you a webinar for your administrators and managers if they want to learn more, but for the end users that are using it, that video tends to be adequate.
Hey, Paul, what I'm seeing, by the way, just so you know, is I'm seeing the presenter mode instead of the.
Let me swap.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. So last slide here. As far as next steps go, I think the first one, if you're on this call, or obviously we're going to send out the the slides for you. If you want to be in phase 2, then reach out to us. And I would say if you work with the phase 1 members, right? So as you see phase 1 members there that you work with frequently, I would say that's a good reason to be part of phase 2. If you don't come forward, they may start to ask us, hey, reach out to member XYZ because we'd like to get them on TSANet Connect. So I would say if you see a partner or two on there that you work with a lot, that would be a good reason to get into phase 2. The second thing that I would do is specifically if you do not have an inbound process today that leverages email in some form, right? So if your inbound contact process is call this number, then you want to start to get some internal buy-in because that is going to be a change required for your inbound process. So having that conversation and kind of getting it going sooner than later will certainly help you. And then I think the last thing I would just kind of highlight here is making sure people kind of remember it is a low volume process. So we tend to kind of get people to follow a few key guidelines, right? The first is make it easy for the partners to use, make it easy for them to contact you. And that really kind of falls into making sure we don't go overboard on custom fields, right? So we work with you on that, make sure, hey, do you need that custom field? Making sure it's a required field, that we're not just adding fields to put optional information there, right? That tends to make it much more complicated for partners to contact you. Keeping it flexible, that's the other thing. And I think that translates into item number 3, right? Which is keeping the integrations simple at first, right? So I think the last thing you want to do is start it off with, 6 IT people in the room and seeing how you can over engineer it. You really want to, kind of see what you can leverage first, kind of make it fairly simple. Integrations, again, everybody, ended up with this kind of, let's just leverage email the case. Certainly there were some members in phase 1 that thought they would do much more comprehensive integration, but I think, the more conversations they had and the more they really thought about it, they said, let's keep it kind of simple at first, and we can certainly improve this over time. So I don't think you want to make it overly complex on your IT side to get started as well. So that's really it. We've got our contact information here. Again, you can reach out to myself or Dennis if you have any specific questions. We'll open it up for a bit of Q&A here. Now I think we've got some time for that, but again, we've got some recorded webinars also.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. And if anybody does have any questions, you can go ahead and submit them on the panel. I know we had a little blurb there earlier in the webinar, and I know what I didn't hear, but I know what you were getting ready to say, and I think it's worthwhile for you to maybe go back and address it. I don't think you need to go back on the slides, but it was right at the point where you were talking about the data protection and privacy issues, what we capture, what we don't capture, and I know that has come up on a lot of the phase 1 members. So can you just kind of quickly cover that?
With the right entitlements and work. So the whole concept behind TSANet Connect is really to just connect the engineers and cases together, right? So there's really 2 key things there that we stayed away from because of the whole data privacy and GDPR and all those types of things that creates complexity. And the first is we don't store and keep the customer information. So you can see there's some modest amount of customer contact information that allows the other partner to entitle. As soon as you do the initial response, we remove that from our system. So there's not this historical stuff sitting on our system. And then the second is we're not involved in the troubleshooting flow. So our system does not support you to do any attachments or all the kind of ongoing conversation is not through us. So that allows you to kind of make sure that you manage your customer data related to your policies, right? So we don't make you do anything that your policies don't enforce or require you not to do.
Okay, great. Thanks. And we do, and I have a couple questions here. Will the audio issues, just to address this, we'll get this webinar out. We'll take the little blurb. I think we can work on that. Maybe take that out a little bit and make sure that
Yeah.
you get it.
Yeah.
But I'll get that. So there's a couple questions on that, and then actually here's a really good one. This has not been addressed yet. I haven't seen this in phase one. Do you have any examples, or can you share how you're going to handle with routines with multiple languages and different countries?
Yeah, so here's what we see on this is just as far as kind of partner collaboration. Tends to be an English-based escalation process, but you probably saw in the interface. I'll show you this if it wasn't clear. We do indicate the country of both the partner as well as the end customer, right? So this could trigger you to assign appropriately, right? So for example, say on the customer contact side, it's a customer from Japan, right? That may trigger you to say, I know this customer is going to want local language support. Let me route this to a Japanese speaker. So you can trigger off of those country indicators, and that will show up in the email stuff. So whether you have skills-based routing associated with language requirements you have with particular customers, you can trigger off of that country locale.
Okay. And another question, is IBM part of phase two?
Good question. Good question. I think the answer to IBM is, and this could be also with some of our other larger members, Microsoft's another one, and that could be a phased migration, right? So it could be that there's some parts of IBM that go in phase two, other parts that go in phase three. But currently at this time, we have both Microsoft and IBM in phase three. But again, it could be that a certain relationship or something would benefit from it. And one of the things maybe I wasn't clear enough on is while it is important to try to simplify this and you can get it down to a single process, that's not a requirement, right? So we do support multiple process forms. Those process forms could be associated with different relationships. So it's possible to say, hey, I have this partner program or this solution support group that I'm part of. I want to get that piece over to the new TSANet Connect to keep my other part, the static process. So we've got some flexibility there we can talk to.
And I would just kind of add on to that. This is coming in, and Jeff, if you want to contact Paul or myself, we can walk you through what we think is a good migration path for IBM. It's certainly IBM is on our board. We've had multiple discussions with them, so we can talk to you about how we think we can move these big companies over. We kind of attacked the bigger companies first, but IBM wasn't one of them. Any other questions? I think that's going to be it for now, Paul. That was great demonstration. A lot of good information. We'll get this recording out to everybody who signed up for the webinar, and appreciate everybody's time. Any closing comments that you have, Paul?
No, I think that does it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.